Hi, I'm Nisha DeGaring, host of Good Things Utah, and I've been a longtime supporter of Todd's Belief Cast. I hope you find inspiration in the courageous stories shared by the amazing people Todd features on his show. The guests serve as shoulders for us to stand on, allowing us to see a little further and cultivate belief in oneself. Remember, you have the dignity and power to change. I encourage you to keep striving and believing in yourself. Enjoy today's podcast.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Todd Sylvester with the Todd Inspires Belief Cast. Once again, thank you, as always, for tuning in week after week and for all your support. I wouldn't be able to do this without you guys. It's been fantastic, and the guests that I bring on are fantastic. That's what really makes this so beautiful, is the diversity of the people that I bring on here who've overcome some incredible odds to be successful in life and to find happiness amongst adversity. It's truly inspiring. I'd like to give a shout out to my sponsors, Craig Swap and Associates, Elevate Wellness and Aesthetics, Maury Nutrition, Wasatch Recovery, Thread Wallets, and then the beautiful music you heard at the beginning and the end of this episode is by my good friend Paul Cardall. He's an award-winning pianist. He's got 25 million active listeners every month, and we're just blessed to be able to use his music. So thank you, Paul, for allowing us to do that. And guys, you're in for a treat today. We have an amazing person. So get ready to be inspired by a true warrior, both on and off the obstacle course. He hails from Houston, Texas. And our guest today is none other than the Kingdom Ninja himself, Daniel Gil. Daniel, thanks for being here.
Todd, it's a joy to be with you today. Thanks so much for having me on your show.
Absolutely. You know, I was just showing Daniel, I just got his book right here. Hopefully you guys will go get it too, right? The Kingdom Ninja. He almost wasn't labeled that title, and we'll talk a little bit about that here in a minute. But Daniel's a motivational speaker. Obviously, he's an author. He is a man of faith. He's a family man. He's got a beautiful wife, and I think just a brand new baby, correct?
Yeah, just 3 months, a couple days ago.
Wow, congratulations. That is amazing. So, Daniel, truly amazing. Again, you're known as the Kingdom Ninja. You've been on the show for over 9 seasons. You've been a national finalist in all those seasons. You are truly, I've watched some videos of you, and it's just, I can't even believe what you can do. It's amazing to me. But more than that, not only are you strong physically, you're strong mentally, you're strong spiritually. And we're going to talk a lot about those areas. But why don't we start off, Daniel? Tell us a little bit about your background. Tell us where you grew up and maybe a little bit about your family life.
Yeah, absolutely, Todd. And I mean, I tell people all the time, like the man that I wouldn't be the man that I am today if not for the very intentional upbringing that my parents gave to me and my 4 other siblings. So came from a big family of 5 kids.
Okay.
But the lives that we lived were, far from the norm. I mean, my parents said, hey, we're not anti-public school, but we want to homeschool our kids. We want to have a much more active role in the upbringing and the worldview and the perspectives that our kids learn, and even just when they learn certain things. So they were very intentional. And I grew up in a Christian household too, so just faith was a part of my life. I mean, even there's a Bible verse that says, train up a child in the way that they should go, and when they're old, they won't depart from it. And for me, I mean, I grew up in an environment that was conducive for faith, for to stepping out of your comfort zone, to doing big things that aren't just about you, but about the betterment of those that you are around, the betterment of those that you are called to serve, to love. And so even as a kid, we were doing, different forms of ministry, whether it was like sign language or mimes or clowns and nursing homes and homeless shelters. And I had a heart for people at a young age. And, fast forward, I was the monkey boy kid in my family, climbed on everything, and for better or for worse. Right. And so was able to find an outlet through sports, played about every sport possible growing up: baseball, basketball, hockey, soccer, tennis, all of these things. Yeah. But I was never a very good athlete in traditional sports. I was never the fastest. I was never the strongest. I was never the most talented. But I was, ranked among the most competitive every time. And I hated losing and always wanted to win. And So learned a lot about, hard work, putting
Yeah.
100% effort into anything that we do. And I began to discover, even as a young person, with the help of my coaches and parents, that, the process of time is a beautiful thing when we can learn to harness it towards the dreams that we have. So I realized that it didn't take just, days, but oftentimes weeks, and then months, and then even years to really get to the highest level of what we're chasing after, even those childlike dreams that we had. So I went from being one of the worst athletes on my teams to being one of the better ones. We're still never the best, but I saw just the application of hard work and perseverance really begin to play off well in my life. So then I began to apply that in other areas of my life. I said, hey, if going the extra mile in my sports helps me to become a much better athlete, more than just in my practices and my games, well, then what does that say about like my education or my worst subjects in school? Begin to turn my weaknesses into, with a lot of hard work and time, turn them into some of my strengths. And I just began to adopt this mindset that said, okay, I might not be a master of anything, but I at least want to be a jack of all trades, in a sense of like, whatever I do, I'm going to give it everything. And it was such a fun, such an exciting life to live. And, through a myriad of miracles and just, unexpected circumstances, found myself working at a Ninja Warrior gym back in like 2013. Never had any idea that it might open doors for this television show, and just one thing kept leading after another, just walking by faith, getting back up, facing the obstacles. Next thing I know, I found myself on season 7's qualifiers for American Ninja Warrior, hit a buzzer, fastest time, and went on to spend the next decade of my life using this platform as a means of, ministry, motivation, encouragement, and overcoming whatever obstacles we face in life.
Wow. And if I understand correctly, it after you got started working at that Ninja Warrior gym, it took 2 years, if I'm not mistaken, for you to actually get picked to be on the show. And it was like one roadblock after the other. And again, I love that part of your story, because you didn't give up. You just kept pushing, you kept doing that. And I think that's a good message for myself and anyone listening to this who has a dream, they want to do something. And what I loved about you is you just kept pushing, you persevered, and you finally got the invite.
Yeah.
Right?
Man, people ask all the time what the hardest obstacle is on American Ninja Warrior, and after the rope, stage 4, I tell them just getting on there was the hardest part, because tens of thousands of people apply every single season, and it's like a couple hundred each year. And so you've got to have that it factor. You've got to have a crazy background or story that they could showcase on the show, much more than just being physically capable, physically strong enough. And so for 2 years I tried, and even, full of faith as a man of God, I was like, man, I'm going to use this as an awesome platform for ministry purposes. I'm going to wear Kingdom big and bold across my chest, and, be the outspoken Christian, but never shove my faith down people's throat. I'm going to be, I'm going to use wisdom and integrity and be a man of honor. I said, but just getting on the show is I keep facing setback after setback after setback, which is funny too to me, because as I even studied the Old Testament, none of their plans ever really panned out the way that they thought so. And sometimes it took years and years of perseverance before, the promises, manifested, so to speak. And so for me, Ninja was always just a joy. I loved watching the show as a kid. I loved being an athlete, and particularly in movement based and really individualized sports. Traditional sports, I never really stood out because it was on a team, and I love teams. But for me, I discovered that I am like an individual athlete, where much like gymnastics or parkour, where it's like all eyes are on you, and you're either going to make or break your outcome. You're going to rise or fall, on your own merits. Yeah. And so when I found Ninja, I was like, this is amazing. But getting on the show, oh my goodness. And every time I prayed, I was like, well, God, if not this year, then I'll do my best. I'll train to give me another year to get even stronger, because I believe it's just a matter of time until I get on the show. And when I do, I'm going to make sure that I'm ready for it. So it took a lot longer than I had anticipated. But when I started, man, we came out the gate hot.
Wow. No, that's awesome. I want to just step back a little bit, going back to your childhood. Again, faith is a big part of your life. obviously your parents, fed that to you as a kid and taught you the ways. And um, how has that played a part in just, even outside of the Ninja Warrior, how has that played a part in your just overall life? And as a kid, did you grab onto that faith quickly, or were you resistant? Well, how did that go?
Yeah, man. I mean, I tell people all the time, especially in the Christian communities that I'm involved with and invited to, because I speak all the time now, getting to share my testimony, preach the gospel. But I tell people, like, the life that I'm living now is a direct byproduct of just chasing after the Lord with my whole heart, and growing up as a child in a very faith-filled environment. Like, I recognize, like, life's not perfect. even forgiven people that love the Lord still make mistakes. We still have free will, and there's a lot of things that we can't control in life, but we can control our responses, what we do and what we choose to believe. And so I remember, even as a child, believing that I chose to make bad decisions all the time and would reap the consequences of them.
Okay.
And I said, okay, well, if I can understand that much as a kid, as 7, 8 years old, I said, then I want to believe that there is hope to get through this. So I'm not just heaping on shame upon shame just of the things that I naturally do. And so, believe that of all the stories of salvation, all these, paths to heaven, that it was found in Christ to be like the way, the truth, the life. Everybody else was like, well, as long as your good outweighs your bad, then, you'll get the green light and you'll make it to heaven. But, the God of the Bible, the God of Christianity says, no, you're not good enough. You'll never be good enough, but I am, and I'll make a way by, being the substitute for all the wrongs you'll do. So I believed that as a kid. But it was really my high school years where I took extreme ownership of my faith, where at like 14, 15 years old, I prayed a new prayer to the Lord, and I said, God, like, I know where my faith lies. I have peace. I know that, not only do I believe that there's life after this, but I know where I stand. I said, but if I'm going to live the rest of my life on this planet calling myself a Christian, a Christ follower, man, I don't want to just be a Wednesday, Sunday Christian or wear a hat whenever I'm around certain groups of people. I said, if nothing else, I know that I'm genuine and sincere in everything that I do, and I'm going to make that the same thing with my faith. So I said, Lord, I know you've got my heart, but from this day forward, here's my life, everything that makes me me, the good, but also the bad and the ugly, my hopes and dreams, but also my fears, my doubts, my anxiety. And it changed everything. I said, God, I'm not going to live off the faith of my parents or my pastors. This is going to be my walk with you. I'm not going to go to church just because I'm supposed to, and mom and dad will get upset with me. I said, but I want to go. I want to grow. I want to have, leaders over me to help explain this incredibly dense and incredibly deep source of knowledge and information, the 66 books that make up this Bible, written over thousands of years by multiple hands, but the hand of God on them with zero contradictions. I said, I want to know and I want to grow. So that sparked my journey into taking ownership of my walk with the Lord, realizing I will stumble and fall along the way, just like every other patriarch and matriarch that I've seen throughout, history. I said, but I know where my foundation is. And so then, long story short, graduated, went to a 2-year Bible college, traveled the world on mission trips and ministries. And just, I tell people it ruined me for normal life. Places like Bulgaria, Japan, Malaysia, Honduras, Rome, Italy. And I was like, this world is so big and I feel so small, yet I realize now that all it takes is a small yes and a faith the size of a mustard seed for the Lord to take and use my life for big things. And so Ninja Warrior wasn't even like on the radar. I just said, God, I'll be a minister. I'll be a pastor. I'll be a worship leader. I'll be a missionary overseas. Whatever you want, I'll say yes. And then a friend of mine at my school of like 20 students told me about a ninja gym. And I was like, light bulb moment. Okay, God, I guess I'll do this because I need a job right now anyways. And it just, continued to spiral from there in the best of ways.
Wow, it's beautiful. Beautifully said. And man, I love your passion. You can just see you light up, man, when you talk like this. You talk a lot about mindset, and obviously your faith is a big part of your mindset. As a matter of fact, you have a chapter in your book, and I want to read something out of chapter 9, mindset, and I want to hear your thoughts on this. And it starts off by saying, passivity is a big obstacle in our culture. And it typically manifests when people feel so overwhelmed by options or are so anxious about tasks that they just sit and wait for things to happen. I see this all over the culture now, and as we have more options for distraction than ever before, and this distraction has detrimental results. But I also see it in my own heart, and I've experienced firsthand too many times. One, I love your vulnerability that you admit that you've gone through the same thing. So I love that because I feel that way sometimes too. I have so much going on that almost I feel stuck. And so talk about, how do we break through that? How do you have the mindset? And you do that all the time on American Ninja Warrior. You just keep fighting through these roadblocks. So talk about that for us.
Yeah, man. I first of all, just in writing that book, it was such a joy for me to get an opportunity to share with others who follow the show or follow my journey in particular, just with the whole physical, mental, and spiritual health and wellness. When it comes to mindset, and particularly that with passivity, like, I have an opportunity. Again, I'm genuine, I'm sincere in everything that I say and do. And I've experienced in my own life, I'm about 31 years old now, and I realized that, life doesn't just happen to us. We have to move. We have to act.
Yeah.
Even as a believer, as a Christian, I realized, God has good plans for me. Jeremiah 29:11, plans to prosper me, not to harm me, give me a hope and a future. And yet, if I'm not actively walking by faith and putting faith and putting actual, what is the word? Movement to my faith, why should I expect the Lord to work on my behalf when I'm called to actually do things? And I see that even just practically in my daily life. Like, I can choose to sit down and just, turn on Netflix and go on a binge and just be entertained and distracted, or scroll through my phone and just, start out by looking at the lives of other people that I follow and connected with, but then just find myself scrolling for, minutes and minutes and minutes, or 30 minutes, then an hour. And then I realized, what have I done? I'm giving myself to things that aren't necessarily evil, but compared to where I want to go in life and what I feel like I'm called to in life, I have to evaluate my time. So one of the ways that I help do that is I love keeping checklists. So I'll have a daily activities list of things that I know will feed me, whether that's feed me spiritually, time in the Word, time in meditation, time in study, or that's mentally, finding brain teasing games or things to help keep me sharp, or, having a checklist of here's the things that I want to make sure that I do every day. And before I waste time just giving myself to other things that are lesser than that, I want to make sure that I give myself to the things that are, beneficial to me. So even before this podcast, I got up, I spent some time, 15, 20 minutes. I have a whole declarations thing that I do.
Oh,
so
wow.
Over the years have written down a bunch of declarations, primarily based on the Bible, whether it's promises of the Lord or commands. And I say, this is how I'm going to live my life. This is what I choose to give myself to. This is what I believe. And here are the fruits I believe I want to see from my life. And because of that, I'm going to choose to give myself to this, that, and the other. Because if I don't set up these, not barriers or blockades, if I don't set up these safeguards in my life, then I fall back into passivity, because it's so easy, more so than ever before in the world that we live in right now.
Wow, that's beautiful. I have my own personal declaration as well. I've been doing it for 30 years. I obviously edit it all the time, so I totally relate with that. And it truly is a guidepost in my life. And what's interesting is everything I've ever put in my declaration has come to pass in some form or another, right?
Yeah.
And it's almost like when you speak it, you create it. And I believe that it's almost like, this might sound a little over the top, and I don't know, maybe I think God always says yes. And what I mean by that is, if I tell myself today's going to be a crappy day and I didn't want to get up, it's going to feel like a crappy day. It's like I almost get what I put out there, right? And the declaration for me personally has helped my mindset almost more than anything else. And so to hear that you're doing that, that's really cool.
Yeah. Oh, it changes things. Even I feel like it's almost like putting lenses on.
Yeah.
So if I wake up, even if I wake up on the wrong side of the bed, and yet I choose to spend a couple 3 minutes jotting down just a couple things that I'm grateful for. Shoot, I'm grateful that I woke up in a soft bed. I'm grateful that I have a roof over my head. I'm grateful that I have the option to choose what I eat for breakfast today. Like it literally almost flips a switch or gives me new lenses to view the rest of my day with. And, it's funny, you have like glass half empty, glass half full type of mindset. And I really believe that we, by the grace of God, have the ability to choose the type of outlook that we have on any given day. And even on the worst days when we're just a couple seconds shy of $1 million and we lose it.
I know. I want to talk about that in a minute.
You can still say, well, hey, I did exactly what I trained for. I did exactly what I prayed for. I got my rematch on that rope climb, stage 4 last season, and I beat it. Like I did 2 things that I was seeking after and praying for. And I would have loved $1 million. I would have done a lot of good with it. I am sad that I didn't, but also I realized at 31 years old, money comes and goes. There is an unlimited supply on this earth. And if we use wisdom and actually work hard, we can accumulate money. I said, but for me, it almost gives me an opportunity when we do inevitably fall, fail, or lose, it gives us an opportunity to showcase character and integrity and where our heart and our identity really truly is. Like I'm an athlete, true and true.
Yeah.
But I don't have so much stock in the outcome of any athletic game or competition that my identity is rooted in the outcomes, where when I win, like, oh yeah, I'm on cloud 9, this is the best day ever.
Yeah.
But then when you lose, you go through this identity crisis. And I have a lot of friends in the athletic world that are like that. And it's toxic because it's very hard to maintain a high level of just performance. So when you do fall and fail, like what do you have? And so for me, like I'll train as hard as anybody else. I'll give 100% of my passion into everything that I do, but my identity is rooted elsewhere. And so when I do lose, yes, it's a bummer. My goal is to learn and grow from any and every mistake so that I don't repeat it. But with that mindset, I can say, okay, yeah, I felt it wasn't the outcome I wanted, but there can be a next time, because in life, maybe not very specific, but there can always be a next time.
Yeah. Wow. What a beautiful perspective. Thanks for sharing that. That's powerful. And to have that type of attitude is amazing. I want to read something else from your book. And for those listening again, it's called The Kingdom Ninja, A Warrior's Guide to Physical, Mental, and Spiritual Health. I recommend any of you getting this book, but there's a little part in your book where it's called Overcoming Labels, the Opera Ninja. And it says, my first year on American Ninja Warrior, I told the producers about my background as a classical vocalist, multi-year all-state choir member, competitive solo and ensemble performer, and a worship leader at my local church, which led them to say, well, let's call you the Opera Ninja, right? Yeah. And in your book, you kind of talk about, I'm glad that didn't stick, and now it's the Kingdom Ninja. Will you talk about how you became the Kingdom Ninja?
Yeah. Man, we live in a world right now where labels are easy. I mean, labels can be great identifiers, but there are ways that we identify people for better or for worse. And I speak in schools all the time because young people now more than ever need to realize, like, you are going to be called all kinds of things that you like, and many times things that you dislike. And the issue is, we get disillusioned in thinking that, oh, this is just a problem when I'm a child, but when I get older, I'll never face these issues anymore. Like I'll age out. We don't. I mean, I tell people all the time, young kids especially, like, there will always be peer pressure for one thing, always people in your life that try to pull you away from, what you're striving towards, right? Or just negative tendencies or issues. I said, there's always going to be people that try to label you, call you this, call you that, based on maybe a fall or a failure or whatever.
Yeah.
Or maybe just something good, but it's not a part of your life anymore. So when I started doing Ninja Warrior and told them, like, hey, I've got a background as a singer, dancer, actor, performer, they were like, awesome, you're the Opera Ninja. But I had already spent 2 years, mind you, thinking of and trying to get on the TV show, and therefore planning out my brand, how I wanted to be known. Because for me, I mean, it was part of my faith journey. I was like, God, the only way that I'll ever get on the show is if you help me, because everything that I'm doing, nothing's working. And so I had a lot of time those 2 years to think about, how do I want to be known? Because Ninja Warrior, you'll never see like a huge Nike or Under Armour or Adidas logos. They have those rights that they sell to other, sponsors. Yeah. So you can't wear big shirts or logos, but you can make your own brand. So I thought, okay, if I'm going to have my own brand, well, I want it to be faith driven, but I don't want to come off as this like holier than thou, like turn or burn type of,
Yeah.
you have to be a Christian. I said, I want it to almost be like a parable, something that people can understand, but has deeper meaning to it. So Matthew 6:33 was one of my life verses, where Jesus said, if you seek first the kingdom of God, live righteously, just to the best of your abilities, then all of these needs in life, what you're going to eat, drink, and wear, God will provide those because he's good and he loves to do that.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, I'll put kingdom big and bold across my chest. And those that are believers know what I'm about, but those that aren't, it's not an instant turnoff. Because we live in a world right now where you can have those, like, oh, you're a Christian, you're judgmental, you're hateful, I'm not going to listen to anything you say. And I never wanted that stigma. So I was like, okay, kingdom. And so I began wearing that as I competed. And they said, no, you're the opera ninja. And I was like, no, guys, like, one, I'm not an opera singer. I just worked with an opera company. And two, like, that's not why I'm here. I compete to not to build my own brand, but to build a kingdom, the kingdom that I belong to. And so it took a couple of years for them to finally start calling me that, because I continued to perform well. I continued to hit buzzers. I continued to have great success where they had to kind of give me more spotlight, give me more, interviews to say, no, I'm not the opera guy. I'm the kingdom guy. And so, yeah, it doesn't matter what people call you ultimately. What ultimately matters is what you respond to, right? Are you answering the call when they call you these things? Or are you making sure that you know who you are, know what you're about, and make that what you're known for?
Wow. Well, that shirt you have on's so cool looking. I want to get one of those. Definitely. Well, that's a great story. And again, I love that you wear your faith on your sleeve, but at the same time, you're not trying to shove it down people's throats. You're just telling you what you believe in. And you really do come across as this very humble, passionate person. And sometimes those two don't go together, it seems like, but you do a really good job with it. And I really am impressed just the way you carry yourself on and off the course, honestly.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Todd. And it helps when the sport that I'm involved in happens to be, the most difficult, physically, mentally, emotionally demanding sport that I've ever been involved in, because what you see on television is the very first time that we do any of those courses. We don't know what obstacles we're going to see when we get there, nor do we ever get to touch any of those obstacles until our actual televised run. Wow. And they have brand new obstacles every season. So whether we like it or not, it is the most humbling sport there is, because you can be the strongest and the fastest with the greatest track record, and then just have one slip up or one mishap, that things didn't feel the way you thought or move the way that you anticipated, and you just couldn't adapt quickly enough, and people fall in the water. Favorites fall in the water every single season, about 99.9% of the athletes. So I could try to be, prideful, but everyone I know who's ever had that has been very, very quickly humbled. Plus, we're not yet to the level of professional athletes where we're signing multi-million-dollar contracts. We understand that as athletes in this sport currently, until it breaks through, as it's inevitably going to, most of this is by the sweat of our own brow. Most of this is just a passion project for those of us in the sport of OCR, obstacle course racing. Now, Olympics 2028, we're going to have obstacle racing. We're going to have obstacle discipline, which is incredible.
Right.
And my ceiling might just become the floor for the next generation. And if so, that's amazing. But in its current format, we have a lot of safeguards, or just whether we want them or not, a lot of reasons to not have a prideful or arrogant mentality.
For sure. No, it's beautiful. I just want to talk about what just recently happened, where the slimmest of margins, you missed out on $1 million. And what is it, an 80-foot rope climb? I think that's what it is. And you have to do it, under 30 seconds, I would imagine. And whoever can do it the fastest, obviously. 80 feet. I mean, I don't know if people understand. If you've never seen that, I've watched you do it several times now. And talk about that experience. And is as you just said, it's hard to lose, but how did you handle that, knowing you were that close?
Man. So it starts way back in 2019. 2019, my first attempt on that stage for the final course on American Ninja Warrior, the $1 million obstacle. I went there, and I remember even being faith-filled and praying like, God, I know what the Bible says. If you need to, you could give me supernatural strength to beat this rope climb, or supernatural speed to quickly beat this rope climb. Or God, I believe, there are angels there, and according to the book of Hebrews, they're there to minister to those who inherit salvation. God, I saw that old movie, Angels in the Outfield. You could have an angel push or pull me up this rope if you need me to win. That's how much faith I've got. And then I lost, and I was like, wow, like, man, this is devastating. It's frustrating. I was a few seconds away from $1 million, and God, I would have tithed off of that. I would have honored you with it. I would have been an awesome ambassador, especially as an outspoken believer. Like, how does this give you glory? And even in my prayer time during that season of my life, I remember just kind of the answer becoming, well, anybody can win and lift their hands up and give God glory. It happens all the time in any other sport.
Right.
But I remember the Lord kind of speaking in my heart and saying, well, Daniel, how many people are known Christians, but then lose the game, but don't lose heart? He said, Daniel, how many people saw you lose $1 million, but still lift your hands up and give me glory for the opportunity, for the joy of doing what you love? And even with the confidence of saying, okay, well, I made it this far once. I'll do my part. I'll train. I'll work hard. And I believe that God will get me here again. So that was my mindset coming out of 2019. I said, okay, God, this was not the outcome I wanted, but this was an amazing experience, my best season I've ever had. If I got here once, I'll make sure that I train hard, and I believe you can get me here again. So the next year, 2020, after the show got postponed 3 or 4 times, I got a phone call. They said, hey, we're having a whole season in 3 weeks. Be ready. And I was ready. I never stopped training. To me, training is also therapeutic. So I came back and I won season 12 of American Ninja Warrior. And it was the only season they've ever not had $1 million grand prize. And I remember thinking, well, okay, all right, well, we're still at an upward trajectory. We're still doing good.
Yeah.
So I came back, and for the next 2 years after that, I didn't do well. I wasn't able to make it to the finals, got sick, didn't compete. And then last year, when I made it to the finals again, I said, God, I've got 2 prayers, 2 goals. I want to make it back to stage 4. And I want to beat it because I believe I can. Yeah. And so then I did it. I was the 4th man in U.S. history to beat stage 4. And for 10 minutes, I was a millionaire until my good friend Vance Walker came and did it 2 seconds faster. And with Ninja Warrior, it's winner take all, whether we win it or not. But at the end of the day, by that point, about 9 seasons in, about a decade of my life involved in the sport, I don't compete just for the money, because if I did, I would be sorely disappointed every single year when things don't go my way, whether it's a $10,000 mega wall or, not getting the fastest time and winning a little bit of money there from qualifiers or semis. But I compete on Ninja Warrior. 1, I love to do it, but 2, for the platform that I know it gives me to encourage and inspire so many millions of people that are watching it, to be a role model to all of these young people, but young and old alike, and to show people that, you will face obstacles in life, whether they're physical obstacles like what we do on the show, or the emotional obstacles of life, sadness or anger. They're obstacles in some way, shape, or form, or even the mental obstacles like fear or anxiety or depression. And I get to share my story and say, we all face obstacles, but take it from me. As long as you can get your identity right and you can get your foundation secure, then you can face any obstacle and come out the other side. Maybe not unscathed, but you can get through, you can overcome. So that's kind of what I did this last season when losing. And I said, hey, this was a bummer, but I'm still strong, I'm still healthy, and I'm going to come back and compete as many more years as I'm able to, as many more years as the Lord will allow me to. And I believe I will get that million someday. And I will be on this next season too. So I'm training hard. It's going to be amazing. And that's kind of my mindset for the show. Like, money's great, but it comes and goes, and there's a million ways to make it. And I don't put so much stock in just the outcome of one game show that I would let it ruin or derail my life. I love my life and the things that I'm involved in.
Wow, it's beautiful. Wow. One of the things I tell my clients, I work with a lot of high-risk clients who are struggling with addiction and things like that, and anxiety, depression, and mental health issues. And I really believe that life happens for us. To be honest with you, Daniel, I took my first sip of alcohol when I was 11 years old. It opened up a 10 years 10 years of addiction for me. I've been clean now for over 34 years. And I look back, had I not had that sip at 11, I wouldn't be talking to you today. And I really believe that. I really believe that God lined up my life in such a way that I'm sitting here talking to you today. And if I can look back, I can connect all the dots. And so your perspective on, you didn't really lose the million because of what you just said. You gained all this other perspective, and people now are going to really listen to you even more intently because you know what it's like to go through adversity, right?
Yes,
What do you think of that?
Man, I think you're exactly right. And when I speak in schools and summer camps and churches and all these different places, I tell people, I say, hey, so the next time that your team loses, or the next time you don't get all A+ on your report card, or the next time you're skipped over for that pay raise or that promotion, the next time that happens to you, well, just give yourself a pat on the back and say, hey, at least I didn't lose $1 million like my friend Daniel Gil, because twice, if that reason, twice for that matter. Because if I got up, then so can you. I mean, it's literally just the decision that we each have to make as individuals to not live our lives as victims of circumstances, whether it's our fault or someone else's, but to take ownership and say, okay, I don't always get to decide the outcome of everything. I don't always get everything that I want, but I am in control of what I'm going to do about it, what I'm going to do moving forward. Yeah, I have a history. We all do. We've all made mistakes, but I'm not going to let that dictate or define where it is that I'm going. I mean, I love the analogy of a car. You've got a front windshield and a rear view mirror. Well, there is always something behind us, but we have a small mirror to look back because that's not anything. It pales in comparison to what is in front of us. That's what we need to keep our eyes focused on. And so if we can begin to have that mindset and mentality, man, we'll become very powerful people in this world for good, a force for good.
I love that. So when does the next season start?
Dude, very soon. Monday night, June 3rd on NBC.
Yeah.
It's going to be awesome.
I can't wait to watch you, man. You're amazing. Seriously, I love your passion. I love your faith. I love the way you carry yourself. Like, it actually chokes me up a little bit. This is why I love doing these podcasts, because I get to meet incredible individuals such as yourself. And, you're doing a lot of good. You're not just obviously doing what you love, but because of that, you're doing a lot of good. You're inspiring a lot of people. And that's what it's all about. I think at the end of the day, I often tell my clients, adversity is the wake up call to your greatness. Mm-hmm. And, you look at what you've gone through, and man, you truly are awake to your greatness. And it obviously started when you were younger, and shout out to your parents for the way they raised you and homeschooling, right? And all that. And so what are, just a couple more questions. Like, what are the next plans? I mean, obviously you got the next season coming up, but what are your big plans? Do you have things on your mind? Like, I'm going to do this, and this, or?
Dude, I've got so many plans right now. And now it's literally just, it's juggling them all. Okay. And I used to pray the prayer of like, God, if you just, send me an open door, I'll know that it's you because I've got no other doors right now. And now the prayer is like, okay, God, I need wisdom. I need discernment. I need, knowledge. I need a team around me to help, bounce ideas off of, because of how many opportunities that there are. So even the next 5 years of my life, for example, I could give you 10 things that are very, very plausible to where my life could go, but I don't. It's going to be a matter of how the pieces fall. My job is to work hard, to do my best. And one of my daily declarations is I'll work hard, do my best, and trust God with the rest, because, I'll continue to be an athlete. I'm still strong. I'm still healthy. I'm doing, outside of the TV show Ninja, there's about 5 or 6 other national and international leagues across the U.S. and abroad that I'm competing at, both in the States and even out of the States. A couple months ago, I was in the Philippines working with the professional athletes in the sport of ninja there, because I've been a coach and an athlete for 10 years. I'm stepping into more of a role as an ambassador for the sport of ninja. I'm on a couple boards helping to make ninja an actual professional sport. Probably the first time in history that a TV show has then turned into a professional recognized sport. Right. So I'm involved in that industry. I'm even working with different companies small little startup called Nike on making the perfect ninja shoe for this sport. Writing several other books. Even later this year, we've got a graphic novel version of the physical, mental, and spiritual health and wellness book that is going to be geared more towards young people, because young people are suffering through mental health and wellness, or just mental health and disabilities from that more than any time in history. And I have a voice, and I want to be a part of that. So I'm stepping more into like professional motivational speaking with whether it's young or old, in all these different environments, faith-filled or secular, just sharing my stories, being a force for good in a world full of more evil than any of us care to admit. I've just started fatherhood now. I want to have a big family too. We're already talking about, having child number 2, and it's just, there's a lot of things. Now it's just juggling. And I understand that life is hard. Life is going to be hard for one of two reasons. It's either going to be hard because we're not doing enough, and therefore we're struggling to make ends meet, struggling to provide. That's hard. Or life is going to be hard because you're doing so many things, you're working hard, so many hours, you're giving yourself to so many good things that it's difficult to keep up with. And I would rather that type of hard than the former type of hard, because I've got friends in both camps, and both of them, life is hard, but I want my life to be more impactful. I want to use my life almost like the way that Jesus multiplied the fish and the loaves of bread by tearing it and giving it to the disciples. I want to have my life be torn in such a way that it becomes food for others, that the resources, the content, the things that come from my life bring life to others, point them to life, And so there's a lot of things. I'll be competing. I'll be, producing content. I've got a lot more things in my life that I'm a part of, and that's only just in the ninja side. There's all kinds of ministry things, doing, eventually I'll open a gym, I'm sure, maybe have like mobile courses to go do events or take with me to events. I mean, the sky's the limit. And now I'm just praying like, okay, God, what's on the forefront? What's on the front burners? What do I put on the back burners right now in this season of my life? There's a lot of good things, but I also don't want to spread myself so thin that none of them work out. My goal right now is, what's the next 6 months look like? What does the next 12 months look like? All these other good things that I have on the shelf, cool. When do those, come into play? So we'll see. It's exciting. I'm an athlete, though, so I'll continue competing for as many as I can.
I love it. Love your passion, man. That sounds so great. If there's someone listening to you right now, Daniel, who's struggling and they're in a dark place and they feel lost, and they're listening to your voice right now. You've already shared some amazing things, but what would you tell that one person right now who's in that place listening to you?
Yeah, dude, easy. I would say find a community. Find a group of people that you can connect with, that you can be vulnerable. Obviously, people that you trust, whatever the struggles are, whatever the difficulties, even if that's picking up a hotline and calling someone and just saying, hey, here's what I'm going through. Here's the thoughts. Here are the feelings. Can you help me process that? I'm a huge advocate for mental health and wellness, but also therapy. Like, I have people that I talk to. Yes, my parents. Yes, my pastors. Yes, my wife. But if I still need to, I need to get it out. Us as human beings, we were never meant to bottle things up. We were never meant to be lone rangers. We were never meant to be lone wolves. Or lone soldiers. It makes for cool movies, but we cannot live our lives that way. We need people in our lives, whether that's a home church with people that are still flawed, still imperfect, capable of making mistakes, but also know what it's like to be forgiven, know what it's like to go through these valleys of shadow of death type moments and valleys. And so we need people that we can talk to, people that we can trust, because it's only by others taking our hands, picking us up, that we can actually walk through these things. I love to write. I jot down my thoughts almost every day. Quick. I don't spend like hours writing, but I'll jot down my thoughts, whether it's on my phone or even a small notebook that I keep with me everywhere that I go, because unless I get it out in some way, shape, or another, whether verbally or even just dictating it, writing it, it's going to stay bottled up, and it's going to fester, and it's going to get toxic, and it's going to manifest in other ways, whether it's my attitudes or my goal setting. So my one advice to tell people is find someone, whether that's your parents, whether that's your close personal friends, find someone that like an elevator, will take you up instead of pull you down. I tell that to young people all the time. Our friends and the people in our lives, they're like elevators. They'll take you one of two directions. And if you think you have a friend, but they're really pulling you down, they're not a real friend. So find someone that can actually lift you up and encourage you, not blow smoke, not just like, give you an ego boost, but someone that can be there to walk you through the difficulties that we all can and will face in life. Find your community, find it.
Beautifully said. I love that. Thanks for that advice. If someone wants to reach out to you, Daniel, and get to know you better and to follow you on American Ninja Warrior and maybe, order your book here and, maybe that amazing shirt you have on right now, what would be the best way for someone to contact with all the good you're doing?
Man, I mean, I'm on all socials. So like Facebook, Daniel Gil, American Ninja Warrior, or like Instagram, the Kingdom Ninja. Got a new website we launched recently, like thekingdomninja.com. And so people can keep up to date. I need to post more. Like social media for me, I've got this love-hate relationship. I love following people that I enjoy. I hate posting and spending the time to do it. So I'll get a team eventually for that. But I do post things every now and then. And I've got like my link tree for all the events I'm doing. I was telling my wife, we've got more events now this summer than ever before, whether it's ninja gyms or competitions or speaking engagements. It's incredible. So we're always going places, meeting new people, networking and doing all that. But people can keep up in touch with that. And even email, if anyone's interested in me coming out, whether speaking at their school or church or summer camp or whatever, they can reach out. I mean, even to, I think it's like bookingdanielgil.com. And I represent myself. I'm independent currently. I worked with an agent for a number of years and it was good. I mean, they're professionals for a reason. Sure. But I determined that for me, a lot of this more was like a ministry type of mindset, not instead of gouging for as much as I can financially, saying, hey, I want to work with you. I want to partner with you. Then I own those relationships. So me and my wife, we run everything when it comes to all of my events and things.
Wow.
And it's such a joy. So anyone who was interested can reach directly to me at bookingdanielgil@gmail.com. And it's such a joy. I love getting to use this platform. This finite platform. I understand that it's not going to be this way forever, but trying to strike while the iron's hot, making an impact for good. Because I remember being the kid at an event with, so-and-so celebrity, and the things that they said would impact me greater than my coaches, my teachers, even my parents, because so-and-so said it. And they're famous for better or for worse in their personal lives. But for me, I recognize like I have a platform, I have a voice. I want to be the role model for other kids that I want someone to be for my kids in the future, paying it forward, sowing and reaping, And so I love it. I love getting to use this. People can keep in touch with me on all socials. Again, Daniel Gil, Kingdom Ninja, and the website, thekingdomninja.com. But it's a joy. So keep up because I will be on this new season and it's going to be wild.
I can't wait. And I'll put all those links in the show notes when we go live with this. So everyone it'll be easy to get right to you. And I just can't thank you enough, Daniel. I know you're a busy man, and thank you for taking time to be on my show. It's a true honor. It's a godsend for me. So thank you so much, and for just being a light in this world. It's beautiful.
Thank you, Todd. It was a pleasure. It was a joy, and I hope that this podcast encourages every single person that listens to it to get out of your comfort zone, do difficult things. Understand life is hard and realize that the more you strengthen yourself, I mean, muscles only grow from being torn and stretched, right?
Yeah,
it's the same thing with any other area of our life. If you want to get better at anything, you have to go through that stretching, those trials. We should never live our lives trying to avoid difficulties. We need to live our lives rushing headlong into the controlled difficulties, like working out or stepping out of our comfort zone for the next step in business or leadership or entrepreneurship. Understand that those obstacles will come, but use them as a tool to get stronger, to become more capable, more equipped. And when you have that mindset, the sky is the limit. I promise you guys.
Man, you guys can feel his passion, man. It's beautiful, man. I'm pumped. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to do this. Well, there you go, folks. Daniel Gil, the author of Kingdom Ninja, A Warrior's Guide to Physical, Mental, and Spiritual Health. He's starting his next season of American Ninja Warrior here in June. We're going to follow you. I know I'm going to. I'm going to be cheering you on. And I can't wait to see how this plays out. But again, you've already won. You got a beautiful wife and a child now. And just all the good you're doing. You've already won, my friend, and I know you know that. But man, watching you progress and move forward, the best is yet to come, like we said at the very beginning of this. So thank you, Daniel, and thanks to my sponsors again, and thanks to all the people listening in. I love you guys. Thank you so much for believing in me. It means the world. And one last thank you to Daniel. You're the best, and we can't wait to follow you.
Thank you, Todd. Appreciate it. Bless everybody. Thank you all for listening.
All right, there you go, folks. Till next time. Love you.